So, where to begin? I mean, I guess the first question is, when was the last time you watched Heavenly Bodies?
400 years ago. A long, long time ago.
You were saying it felt like it was 100 years ago, but it also kind of felt like it was yesterday that you made it.
Yeah. I couldn't sit and watch it just now, but I just saw the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes of it, and I remember where people were offset, and I remember, what that morning was like when we shot that, and so like you remember such amazing little details, and then you go, oh my God, it was 40 years ago. It was a long time ago.
I wasn't going to continue to repeat the number, but yes, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of it. And can I just say, you look phenomenal. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my relationship with the film. I discovered it during the pandemic, which, as I'm sure you can relate, wasn't the happiest of times. And I needed something, and it turned out that what I needed was Heavenly Bodies. And it's not just because it has amazing choreography and incredible dance numbers and just one of the best soundtracks of the 80s. I love all those things, but really what made it so rewatchable, and I think contributed to the fact that I've seen this movie a dozen times, is because of what you bring to it. And I think you bring a vulnerability and just a kindness to this film. It's endlessly watchable, and I think that I don't even think of this as an aerobics film. I think of this as a film about relationships, and I think about a single mom just doing her best to get by. I want to know, does that track for you at all?
You gotta understand, we shot this film in 18 days. We only got a second take on anything if the camera screwed up. I swear to God. We didn't get a second take as an actor. It was the first lead I'd ever done in a film. I'd done lots of stuff. I started in the business when I was a kid, so I'd done lots of stuff.
Doing it since you were 5 years old?
I always say I grew up in the halls of 90 Sumac Street, which is the old CBC building. Because I spent more time out of school than in school, to the point where 3 teachers in grade school kicked me out of their class because I wasn't there enough, because I was on sets. But this was the first lead that I'd done. And I think that sort of, I look back and I was just so earnest. Not in my life, I mean in the movie. I was just so earnest in the movie, but I was 24, I was driving over here. I was younger than my boy is now, which is mind-boggling to me. But we never did second takes. That was it. Even if you screwed up the lines or anything, that was it. And that last bit where Sam is supposed to revive and do a dance, we didn't have time to choreograph that. That was Brian Foley, who was the choreographer, who had been my dance teacher all my life. And he literally just said to me, just go, just do something. Because there was no time to choreograph anything. The dance number in the studio where it's me alone on the floor, in the skirt and stuff, I think we choreographed it once and sort of roughed it out, and then the camera rolled. And we did it. That's it. That's how fast it all happened. And I remember, God, I hope you're not here. The guy, the blonde, I can't remember his name.
Steve?
Steve.
Is Steve here tonight? Steve, are you in the audience?
Okay. I remember at one point in one of the scenes, he said to me, I just want to play around with these lines. I think I'll screw them up a bit, and I'll shift them up, and I'll just say this instead. And I was like, what? What? There's no time. You can't do that. You can't do that. You have to say the line because and he did, and they just kept it because we didn't do another take.
That's what you get.
That's what you get. Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about the emotional core to Samantha. Like I said before, just, it's so much more than just montages, although those montages are fantastic. But the vulnerability and the kindness that you bring, like, was that a discussion with director Lawrence Dane? Like, was that something that you worked on, or did that just come natural because, like you said, you were just so damn earnest you didn't have a choice?
I was just so damn earnest.
That's what makes the movie fucking amazing,
Yeah.
because of this earnestness. We've seen movies like this before that don't have that, and that's what makes them fall flat. The fact that there is such a sincerity to it, and that sincerity that you bring, I think that's what makes this a magical film. To me, that's what cinema is. Such a cliche line. It's true.
I went to the movie bombed when it
Oh, yeah. I didn't mention that before, but
No, big time.
There's more people in this audience right now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a bomb. And I remember, Entertainment Tonight was a big deal at the time. And I remember, they skewered it. Oh, fuck, they just did it. And it was when we all watched Entertainment Tonight, and I remember, like, sitting on the couch going, I was like, okay, I'm ruined. My career is ruined. But go on. It bombed, and yet they took me on this American tour. I went, like, to all kinds of cities, publicizing it and talking about it and going to all the dance studios. And I went to Japan for 10 days, which was wild. It was massive in Japan.
Another cliche.
It was amazing. It was amazing. That was quite an experience. Yeah. The most amazing thing out of it. Sorry, do you want to ask another question?
No.
About 10 years ago, I bet. Maybe a little longer, maybe 10, 12 years ago. I got a letter from a woman in Romania, a young girl, who told me that she'd learned English by watching the movie. And that in her school, it was a bootleg copy that had been sent around. They weren't allowed to watch English movies. They weren't allowed to watch movies, American movies, she called it. And her and her friends had sort of like underground taken it around to all their houses and watched it. And what it meant to them to dream about getting out and seeing the world like this movie was, and living like Samantha lived. It was amazing. It was like to be sitting in my kitchen reading this letter in this scrawled English writing that, like, she was so inspired by this little movie that we made that I think it was the first time that I really thought, fuck you, Entertainment Tonight. Sorry.
You do not have to apologize for that.
I just thought, sometimes there's more to it than it becoming a big, massive success. It was a success for those young girls in that little town. And I thought, wow, like, that's okay. That's good.
They did do something right.
Yeah, we did do something right.
So the director, Lawrence Dane, who, this is actually his only film he made. He was a one-and-done director, which you wouldn't know it by looking at it.
But he was a great actor.
But he was a great actor. He's one of the best character actors.
He was a great actor.
He's in Scanners. He's in Bride of Chucky, one of my favorites.
Yeah,
but he's been, you know his face. He's been in hundreds of films. How did he come to this project, and how did both of you come to this project, I guess?
No, I was saying before, I don't remember the audition process for this film. I usually remember those kinds of things. I don't know what.
But you believe that you did audition?
Yeah, no, I did. I still audition. It's very seldom that you get to a point where you don't have to audition. I think that my brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, Robert Lantos, was the producer. And they needed a dancer, and I think he knew that I was a dancer, and so I think that's how I got the audition.
That's a good in to have.
Yeah, although it doesn't get you the gig, right? Gets you the audition, but
gets you in the door, yeah.
And so Larry had something to do with writing it too, and like getting it all happening. But I don't remember. I just remember how fast it was.
Yeah. Well, were there conversations, because the tone of it, and that's another kind of surprising thing about this film, is that the film feels very adult. Like, it feels like a film for grown-ups. A lot of movies of this genre are kind of aimed more at teens. I know, I'm sure that probably has something to do with who some of the producers were on it, but I'm sure that was a conversation, I would hope that was a conversation about, like, we're going to make this for a more grown-up audience. Do you remember tackling
like
that anymore?
Flashdance had happened, right? So that's what was the inspiration. I mean, that everything was like trying to do that and get just a glimmer of that success that film had.
It's Flashdance exploitation. For sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you don't hide it either. In one of the very first scenes, you are staring at a poster of Flashdance.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't, there was that inspiration for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that grittiness, right? But that's okay. That we couldn't fake that.
I think that grittiness might come from having one take for each.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I was a theater kid, and so I had that. Thank God that you got to do it. You got to do it the first take. That still happens on lots of films, I'm sure. That you got to do it on the first take.
Yeah.
If you get more, that's sweet, but you still try and do it. You give it. I think.
Well, I wanted to circle back because you did mention Brian Foley, who, for those who don't know, he was kind of he was a Canadian dance icon. He really kind of revolutionized the art in Canada, and he was a choreographer. I guess was it him and his was it his wife or his sister?
Faye, yeah,
Faye,
his
that's right.
wife, yeah. I saw her there.
And you worked with him, probably both of them on this film. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like what was the pre-production like? What were the rehearsals?
Well, again, thank God we had a shorthand, so that helped a lot. And a lot of the dancers I knew really well because we'd sort of grown up. I mean, I was a kid that I spent every single day after school of my entire life at the dance studio.
Yeah.
Every single day, every Saturday. That was just my life. And you didn't have an option. You had to sing, you had to do ballet, tap, and jazz. And if you were going to be a musical theater kid, you had to sing, dance, and act at the same level on all of it so that you weren't a jack of all trades, but that you were a triple threat. That was the goal. And so that's just what you did. And that's the way Brian worked. And that's what Brian sort of worked us as. And so we had a shorthand when we started this, that he knew how he could push me and he knew what he could make me do. So he could choreograph a number once and say, put the camera on and film. So he knew how my body worked and I knew how he worked. And I think growing up with him he was really tough as a teacher, and I think that helped me a lot in my life. I mean, that instilled a lot of discipline in my life, and so that discipline sort of came into this too, and with all the dancers, like because we all knew each other, and so I mean those dancers behind me had been in class with me for years and years, a lot of them. So it was a bit family as far as that was concerned.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, to me, like that discipline definitely runs through the DNA of this film. And I mean, yeah, sure, you're all there making an exploitation movie. I can't imagine you had too many, grandeur illusions of like, this is going to be the best film ever made. This is more, like you said, it was exploitation. But what, in my opinion, is even better than that is just you have a group of people who are all obviously extremely talented and giving it everything they have. And I think that's what it's all about, I think.
And I think that, the DOP, Tom Burston, who I had a mad crush on. He was the sweetest guy, and he taught me so much on set. It was fantastic. But there was something wonderful about, we shot it in the buildings, the old World War II buildings. It's now Liberty Village. that when they were still sort of a wreck, like they had not been developed. And so the stone, the brick walls and the stone and the wood floors and the bodies and the big windows, like all the textures were really neat together, like it was, and the high ceilings, it was just, it was fantastic to have all those elements together. They really helped the depth of the look of something that didn't have a lot of depth to it at the time.
Yeah, no, well said. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have questions, and we definitely want to stay on track with Heavenly Bodies, but because I'm a programmer, I get to cheat a little bit. Me and my partner Alicia is in the audience. We program Uncaged, which is a yearly Nicolas Cage Fest. One of the screenings, I don't want to keep bringing up the pandemic, but it just happened this way. We did have a screening planned of The Boy in Blue before the world shut down, so we never got to screen it theatrically, and then it just went into rights hell and whatever. But I do want to ask you about that film. I mean, it's obviously a very Toronto-specific film about a very Toronto-specific person, and you got to lead with Nicolas Cage. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
And Chris Plummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic film to work on. It was great, and he had just come off filming Birdie,
Yeah.
like 3 days before.
Such a great underrated movie
and
too.
He had pulled his 2 eye teeth for Birdie, so that he looked like he had gone crazy and stuff.
Yep.
And so he showed up with no teeth. And I remember the director was like, "You're our leading man," you know. And like Nick gets into stuff like nobody gets into stuff. I'm sure you can tell. And it was like, they had to get the fake teeth. We had 3 days. They had 3 days to get the fake teeth made and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a really interesting time for him. But because it was a period film, and it was a great story. It's a great story. I loved doing that one. That was great. Yeah.
Do you have any specific memories of working with Nicolas Cage? Do you learn anything on that set?
No, he worked really, really hard.
That's kind of that is what he's known for.
Yeah, he worked really hard, and he was great to work with. Like, we had a really good time working together. It's that, no. I tell these kind of stories?
Yes.
You're not here anymore. It's okay. Chris Plummer said to me one day on set, he said, because I used to hang out with the crew. I just used to hang out with the crew. And I used to sit on apple boxes, and I used to go sit and have lunch with the crew in their tent and stuff. And he got so mad at me, and he was like, "That's not the way you're going to be a star. You can't do that. Don't sit on apple boxes if you want to be a star." I was like, I hang out with the crew. And he didn't, and he would never, if he was off camera, and he had to do lines off camera, he wouldn't do them. He wouldn't sit there. He would have the stand-in, or he would be like, can you use the mic stand and stuff. And it was just such a different way. And I loved Chris, and we became friends, and we worked together after that. But it was, and I would say to Cynthia, it was like, we work differently. Like, it's just not the same kind of thing. You should do your best work on the other person's close-up, right? That's the deal. Yeah. And he really sort of wanted to groom me for stardom, and I was like, I'm just a theater kid. So I'm hanging out with the crew, honey.
You learned about 2 very different schools of acting.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not going to hog the mic too much. I'm sure that, there's already hands up right in the center. Is that Jamie?
Yes. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
So, after the shoot wrapped, how exhausted did you feel after all those very intense dances?
Oh, God.
You were very sweaty.
Very sweaty. But I was young. I had energy, it was okay. I remember that, it was a bit sort of wild that we did all that in 18 days. Yeah, it was really wild that we did all that. Really, really crazy. We were a wreck, yeah, for sure.
All right, who's next? Is that? I need more confidence. Yeah, you right there.
Oh, I know. Hi, Cynthia.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
My first exposure to this film was back in CTV when they used to air it at night. And that's how I caught it. I remember, vividly, that montage with the sex and stuff.
You may remember better than I do.
But what I will say is, over time, it became one of my favorite films, and I love the soundtrack. It's fantastic. With each repeated viewing, it's just gets better and better. But the question I have, the actress who played Debbie, were there actual rivalries or?
Oh, no, there really weren't. No, there really weren't. We were too young. We were too fucking keen. Like, we were so keen and so grateful and so happy to be doing it, and to be shooting a film and to be having that job. Like, no. There was no time for that. There's no time now. There's no time now, even on any film set. Like, get over it, honey.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. So there was no, I don't know how this works, but like, because you said you shot like in 18 days, so
Yeah.
did you actually establish any relationship with the other actors?
Well, you do, like, really fast. You get to it really fast, right? If you're lucky, if there's any simpatico and you have someone else who wants to actually engage with you, you get to it really fast. And, you know, I always say that it's the white part of the page that's the most interesting. Not the lines, not the words, it's the white part of the page. Because that's what I can bring as an actor, to that stuff. And so that's what I'm always interested in, is what's the other stuff, that it's not just the words, it's the other stuff that I'm interested in. And that's how I build a relationship with the character and the characters that I have to interact with, on stage or on film or on set or anything. Yeah, I don't know how many, I know some of them did, but not a lot of them stayed in the business, I don't think. I think some of them were smart and got out.
Thank you so much.
Next question, please. Right in the very back.
Oh,
There's two people, but you guys fight it out.
Greg's gonna win. Okay. Greg would absolutely win. Go for it. You mentioned that most of the takes that you did were just one and done onto the next. Did that include the orgy scene with your son? Did you only use
I promise I wouldn't talk about this, but I can't control
That's
that.
all right. No, yeah, really, one and done, baby. Yeah, and you know, kids, they can do it once and like, they've got it, you know. So yeah, it was, all of that was one and done. Yep.
All right, right beside you, and then we have somebody over here.
Yeah.
I have to
Yep.
be the person in the crowd who brings up street legal.
Is that your question? You gave me a little more than that, bud.
No. How was that going from film to TV, but also as a character, like joining an established show, and then a show that wound up being one of those rare Canadian TV success stories of the time? You know, I think like 8 or 9 seasons or so. When you joined Street Legal, like was it's still a bit nebulous as to how long it might last?
Yeah, when I got Street Legal, I auditioned in New York City. I was doing a show off Broadway called Tamara, and I was out playing poker with the crew, as I do, till 4 in the morning, and I got home and there was a message on my machine saying, you know, they're flying you to Toronto tomorrow morning for a screen test. And so I came in, did the screen test, went back, did the show that night, and a couple of weeks later found out I got the job. And when I got the job, they said to me, cut your hair and lose 10 pounds. They couldn't say that anymore. You couldn't say that to an actress anymore. And I was on audition. Every 6 weeks for a year, they could pick up my contract or not. So I was on audition all year. Again, they couldn't do that anymore. And so Olivia became a success, but I didn't know if she was going to. Nobody knew if she was going to. And so I sort of took my chances that I left New York City and took my chances that it was going to be a success. And the great thing about doing the show at that point for me in Canada, and at that time, those shows, you know, up until that point, every Canadian knew the name of every C, D, B level American actor in the world on every TV show. And something happened at that point. There was a golden era of Canadian TV shows, and people started to learn the names of Canadian actors in TV shows. Those shows of E&G and Night Heat and Street Legal, and a lot of those shows became hits. And people started to learn our names, and those actors became well known in Canada. And that was a really fantastic wave to be a part of. And I would have ridden that wave forever. It ran for 7 years, and we would have stayed longer. But everything has a time, and that's okay. I don't know, on Instagram yesterday, I posted a picture. I threw out a poster yesterday of Street Legal that I'd had in my basement, in a junk room, from season 2 of The Six of Us. And I posted the picture of it and said, it's okay, it's time to let things go. And I had such a reaction to people posting on Instagram saying, I want that, please don't throw it out. It's amazing, sort of those ones that stick. And it was, it was a sweet time. Yeah, really sweet.
Who had their hand up before?
Right, over here. In the front row.
Just over here first, go ahead.
Yep, go
Yeah.
for it.
What's your dance routine on a daily basis now?
Oh.
Just to repeat the question, what's your dance routine on a weekly basis? Daily basis.
Daily
Sorry.
basis. I don't dance daily. Well, no, you know what? I'm a real kitchen dance party person. There is no doubt. I am. I don't take dance lessons anymore, but I am a bit of a fiend working out and lifting weights and stuff like that. Yeah, I am.
Well, we could talk to you all night, but we do have another movie coming in. But I do want to finish it off by just asking, you're looking at a sold-out crowd that came here to see a film that came out 40 years ago. When you were making the film, did you ever imagine that there would be going to have this much screen time?
Really, really sweet. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we've taken up your time. I know this is not a thing that you normally do, so I just want to
No,
thank
it's
you
okay.
from the bottom of my heart for doing this and for being so generous with your time.
I wish I should have. If I could have showed the picture. I sent you a picture
I
yesterday.
know, I haven't showed it yet. Do you have it?
Do you have it?
Well, I have it on my phone.
Well, you can't really see it.
I know.
I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna let somebody else okay. But I'm a bit of a saver of things from films or parts or whatever. I found yesterday my outfit from Heavenly Bodies. A blue outfit that I wore at the end of the thing. The wrist things, the headband, everything. The warmers, the leg warmers. And there was a second where I thought, did I look like a bad SNL skit or something? So no. But anyway, yeah, I still have it.
You didn't. I didn't share the picture because you didn't give me permission. But if you're okay with it, I will put it online tomorrow.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Everyone, round of applause. Cynthia Dale.